Nice. So ladies and gentlemen, to talk about Ethereum Enshrined PBS towards a minimal spec, put your hands together for Terence Tsao!
All right, hey everyone. So my name is Terence. I am a layer 1 core dev. I work on Ethereum consensus layer. I work on this client. It's called Prism. So I've been working on this space since 2018. So I work on the beacon chain, proof of stake, which you'll know. And then after that, I work on Ethereum. I work on the merge. Right now, I was working on 4844, but then something got my interest and this whole notion of proposal builder separation. So in the next 20 minutes, that's all I have. I will try to PO you guys into looking at this problem, and then let me try to convince you guys why I think proposal builder separation is one of the more important problems that needs to be addressed. So brief agenda, right? We talked about why, what, and how we do PBS, and what is proposal builder separation, why is it important. And then after that, I will try to briefly introduce a very minimum spec, which is a research post, and which was just released today. And then, so I will briefly go over that. So what is PBS, right? So proposal builder separation is this concept that has existed for a long time. It's essentially you have your validator, and your validator proposed a block, right? But MEV is a problem. So there's certain actors, they can order transactions and make more profitable block, right? And then so that certain actors, if they run validators, they will make more money, kind of like miners, right? So you have these centralization forces. So the solution to that is that you basically have two rooms, right? You have your proposer, you have your validator. You kind of separate out the rooms. You kind of enforce decentralization on validator side, right? But then you basically keep the room clean, and then you have this other room, which is the builder. You kind of allow the room to be dirty as long as they're separated. So that's kind of the idea when you have proposal builder separation, right? So builder is responsible for building the block. Everything like EVM related, like swap, NFT, blah blah blah. They get to do whatever they want. And then your proposer is the one that signs the block and proposes the block. And proposer is the one that actually does the staking. So proof of work, Ethereum, right? So in proof of work, that this builder trusts miner not to steal, right? This is kind of the golden rule that the builder and miner have. So you have this type of relationship already. But then at proof of stake, right, you're moving from 15 mining firms to 600,000 validators, right? So that trust model will break, because as a validator, I get to propose a block, say every 6 months, and then what if I just steal the block from the miner, and then I just withdraw, and then I go retire somewhere, right? So the number of the validator becomes much more than the number of miners, so therefore the trust relationship breaks, right? So the relationship becomes much weaker in proof of stake, because on average, every validator proposes a block every 6 months, right? So how do we establish that trust? So here comes a relayer. Yeah? So the relayer is trusted by the builder to not to steal, right? It's kind of this centralized party, and then it's trusted by validator for payment. It validates a block. So it's kind of this referee party that sits in the middle between the builder and the validator to enforce that both parties are acting and played correctly. So in real life, this is what it looks like, right? So you have validators subscribe to multiple relayers, and then relayers talk to different builders, blah, 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 blah. So you have this type of crazy multiplex graph. So this is what happens in real life, right? As a validator, of course, your incentive is to make money, right? To propose a very juicy block. So then the rational strategy is to subscribe to as many relayers as possible, because therefore you can reach as many as builders as possible, because you want the highest bid, right? So it doesn't make sense to subscribe to one builder if you can subscribe to 100 builders, because one of them might have a more profitable block. So today's stats, right? This is what it looks like today. This was captured last week, right? About 93% of the validators are using this type of model, basically, right? So why PBS, right? Like I said earlier, if we don't have PBS, you kind of have these centralization forces, because now only the validator and the builder team up together will be more profitable. That kind of centralizes like staking pool and stuff like that. So your solo staking, your solo validator will potentially make a lot less money because you don't allow that. So having PBS kind of give the solo validator like a chance basically to able to participate in this type of MEV auction. So how do we do PBS? So there's two approaches. There's this hybrid approach, which is happening today, and there's this Enshrined approach, which is what I am gonna push us towards. So let's look at the hybrid version. So hybrid version, so of many of you guys, if you guys run a validator, you guys must heard of MEV Boost. So MEV Boost essentially is a relayer aggregator. It kind of allows your validator to connect peer with multiple relayer, yeah, and then, so you basically make sure that, okay, you are selecting the highest bid, you're signing, blah, 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 blah. And then the scheme that's using is commit and reveal. So, oh, I pressed the wrong button, sorry. Can I resume? Oh, there you go, it's back, sorry about that. Okay, so that's next slide. So this is kind of what the workflow is like through this commit and reveal scheme. So as a validator, you call your MVP boost to get a header. That's the commit part. So I commit to something that I cannot steal, right? So I get a header, and then the MVP boost give us the best header. The best here means the highest bid one. I sign it, and then I send it back to the relayer, and the relayer checks the signature, make sure it's right, and then reveal it to everyone. So it's commit and reveal, right? And then you ask, okay, what happens if we don't commit and reveal? Then the validator can just farm run it, right? So you want the validator to commit the signature first. So that's what the commit and reveal comes from. So why are we enshrining, right? Why are we talking about in-protocol PBS if this works very well? And truthfully, is that it works fine, but it hasn't been working very well, right? Because now your centralization forces becomes on the relayer side, right? Because now you go from like 600,000 validator to like 40, to maybe today, how many relayers are there? Probably 10 to 20. You go from 600,000 validators to 10 to 20 relayers, right? And then your worst security is just one relayer, because it takes one relayer to give you the wrong thing, then your validator will misblock, right? So by solving one problem, one bigger problem, we're bringing in like a smaller problem, maybe not small, maybe like medium-sized problem, right? So you have your small set of centralization forces, and it only takes one bad relayer to kind of mess up your validator, proposing blah, blah. And then another thing that's hard is that fault attribution turns out to be quite hard, because like relayer is out of protocol, right? So it's not within the protocol, so everything is just messages, right? So like if something gets missed, it's basically what I say versus what you say. There's not like on-chain proof that's saying that, well, you didn't give me the block on time, the package should just be lost, right? So the fault attribution is quite hard. Another thing is very difficult to coordinate, right? I'm not sure any of you guys follow the Ethereum development process. You have your research team, you have your client team, you have 12 client teams. They come together, you have your weekly call, we do test nets, we do dev nets, blah, blah, blah. But relayer is kind of like its own thing, as we have seen from before, right? They kind of blah, 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 they kind of wait until last minute, here's the code, but everyone ends up using their code more than using our code, because of 98% of the validators are using the relayer, right? So to them, like their schedule, at least from what we have seen, the previous two hard fork are always like slightly misaligned and behind. It kind of brings like additional like stress or additional like concern to the testing team, blah blah blah, because they're out of protocol. And then another thing is it's cost, right? Just running a relayer it's a public good. It's an altruistic act. It's also expensive, right? I heard there's a range from 10 to 20,000 a month just running a relayer, because they have to address DOS. They basically have to be very reliable as well, because if they screw up, the validator and the builder gets pissed at them too, right? So yeah. Okay, so here are some recent events, right, that happened. I'm not sure if you guys heard of the Low Carb Crusader. So this is the one that this is the one that the validator ends up taking advantage of the builder where they discover a bug from the relayer that allows basically submitting a bad header back such that they can front run the builder transaction, but then the relayer side gets the bad transaction, gets the bad header and couldn't propose, so they get to front run. They were able to drain $20 million from the searcher. And then there's Chapella Prism bug, and then I am actually from Team Prism, so this bug was caused from my team. It's my code, basically, right? It's like a bug that caused people to miss block because of just bad testing and bad coordination, because with a relayer, this thing becomes very hard, right? And then as a relayer, due to the local Crusader attack, the relayer response is just like they're basically starting to delay message, right? Because like they want to make sure their block gets sent out first before returning the block to you, thinking that you were front run. Even though you get slashed, you front run, you can still be profitable. So they added this delay, right? But the delay ends up reordering more block than before, so that you kind of have this second order effect when they try to do one thing, then the other, then the second thing happens. So that's kind of, yeah, so the recent events has been pointing out that, yeah, I mean, there is a choking point right there. So there are some counter arguments on just like, against Enshrined, right? A lot of people have been saying like, if it ain't broken, why fix it, right? If it works okay today. And then a lot of people say that, I mean, this can be addressed on the application side, on the RPC wallet side. And then a lot of people will say, okay, well, there's a higher precedence items on the roadmap, right? And scalability is more important than this. Let's focus on scalability first, which we are, right? With EIP 44 and stuff like that. Another side of argument is saying that, okay, maybe we shouldn't enshine until we figure every parameter out, because we want like this perfect design that we should just wait until we do more research, such as like, do you do block auction, do you do slot auction, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so these are the common counter arguments that I've seen against Enshrined. So what are some properties that we want on this Enshrined PBS, right? I can give you a few. I mean, the one that we want is that we want essentially the builder, so there's three actors in the system. There's the builder, there's the proposer, there's the testers. You want all three of them to be incentive aligned. You don't want them to like have this PvP game when they like fight against each other, when they try to steal against each other. And then the low carb Crusader event was the one that started fighting against each other, when they tried to cheer against each other, right? So you don't want that. You want some sort of payment guarantee such that like when the builder says it has to pay the proposer, then the builder does pay the proposers if the block gets in, right? You want permissionless to entry, meaning that anyone can be a builder, just like today, anyone can be a validator if you stay 32 ETH. And then you want some sort of censorship resistance, which is very nice in my opinion, where you don't want like the builder that has essentially like control to all the transactions, can filter transactions. You want some sort of censorship resistant quality. And so what I translate to a layman term is just that you kind of want the proposer and tester to determine what is the head of the chain. You don't want the builder to determine that, okay? So the builder will only review the execution only if it's guaranteed that it's not going to be unbundled attack. So you want some sort of very strong guarantee on those two properties, and then you want proposer to get paid if it includes the block, and then you want also proposer can use the local payload if they want to, right? You don't want the force the proposer to always use the builder payload, because that's kind of a censorship resistant choke point right there. And then you want anyone to be a builder. So that's kind of what a layman term is. So at a high level, what is ePBS, right? You remove the relayer, you replace the relayer with the attester, so therefore it's into the protocol, and then the builder becomes part of the protocol as well, and then the attester basically takes on the relayer role by attesting whether a payload is available or not. So that's the basic, right? So quick refresher of attester duty. So I mean, I don't want to go so much into that. So attester is essentially part of the consensus actor. It votes when the block is valid, when the block is on time. And then if there's enough votes, the block becomes part of the chain, right? If the block doesn't have much votes, then the block could be highly subjected to be reorged. So that's what a tester is for. So a tester today, it has one role, and that's just to vote. This vote when the consensus block is valid, it's on time. So we're going to split the tester role into two roles. The first half is essentially for consensus validation. The second half is essentially for execution validation. Basically a test, this is the new part, to a test, did the builder reveal on time or not? And that's it. So then, yeah, so you have your first half and your second half. The first half, the tester votes what is the head of the chain. The second half, the tester, when the builder revealed it, the second half, the tester votes whether the execution has been revealed or not revealed. So how would they look like in practice? Oh, I'm sorry, that looks terribly tiny. I'm not sure anyone can see it. But yeah, anyway, so basically to echo the previous point, you have this very similar step, but then you have your tester to vote for the second time, basically. So this is from Mike, and this is what he drew. So essentially, at the T0, you have your honest proposer. They essentially broadcast their block. And then at the T1, you have your tester, essentially to attest for the head. And then, so the first half is essentially the blind block, right? The second half becomes the full block when the builder review the payload. And then after the builder review the payload, the attester will essentially attest whether the payload was available or not. And then essentially, right now currently it's 12 seconds per slot, so we're extending it to like 16 seconds per slot because of the extra step. So here are the new some consensus objects. I'm running out of time, so I don't want to like go so much into the nitty-gritty. So the new consensus object, so the block contains the builder bid, then the attestation contains some field, and then you have your builder that's part of the state, and then you added this execution slashing. And then some new consensus layer changes, right? So you essentially add the builder into the state, and then you added some slashing conditions, and then you basically slash some invalid execution reveal. And then here are the new P2P networking topics. So you have your builder bid, so that's the builder's bid becomes gossipable through the P2P layer, and then you have your validated block. So validated block now contains the bid, how much the builder pays for, and then you have this new attestation object who essentially vote on whether builder has revealed or not. And then of course you have your invalid execution. When the builder reveals something that's invalid, the builder will get slashed, and that's the invalid execution P2P topic. And the new for choice changes. I think one thing I will say is that like everything else seems simple, and for choice is probably the most complicated part to moving into this new scheme. So for the for choice side, you have now you basically have the notion of that you want to vote for empty slot. So before, if there's an empty slot, then you vote for previous head, right? But now you actually need the notion of this empty slot voting, or something like you can reorder the late block. Otherwise, otherwise the proposal and builder, that becomes very gameable. So they can game against each other. You have this new like for choice idea from Francisco, like view merge, and then we added this payload timeless vote. So on the builder side, right, if you're a builder, you probably want to protect yourself. So a common way for a builder to protect itself is that like you essentially like by bonding the transaction within the slot. So therefore, like you cannot get hurt if someone try to like basically unbundling your block. So this is what Builder does today already, at least I hope. But yeah, I would certainly recommend them to do that. So here are some of the open questions, right? So from for choice perspective, are we safe from this split views attack? What happens if someone releases something that's so late in the last minute that splits the view of the attester? And then what happens? Can they play games against each other? Can they cheat against each other? That's something that we're not like so sure about. That's something that we need more further formalization, basically. And then like what are the new UX implications, right? Because right now we're essentially moving from like a 12 slots to something like 16 slots. What does that look like? Because the time to finalization may be longer, basically. And then yeah, so basically this is still very early and stuff. So yeah. And then, yeah, I guess that was basically my last slide. So yeah, happy to open for any questions or feedback. Also, I want to give a shout out, heads up to our friends. Oh, okay. So yeah, thank you. And then yeah, I want to shout out to Mike and Francisco. They are basically the giga brain that's thinking about the problem. But yeah, if any open questions, I'll be here. Feel free to ask me anything. Yeah.
Hi, I can't go a lot into the technical details, but I love your clarity. And my question would be a bit general and for some people out of the room, like acknowledging that MEV is a controversial topic for some builders in the Ethereum space. It confuses me the notion that the building would be inside the block proposing itself, or all the bids at least. So someone that's running a validator and don't want to take part of this game, what would be their choice on their course of action?
You don't want to participate, which is surprisingly a lot of people. Even today, I work on this. I run a validator. I don't care. I don't want to participate, right? And then just because like I believe in running solo staker, so I believe in running like stock software. And then so if you want to participate, you just run stock software. You don't use MEV boosts. You don't use a relayer. You have 5 amazing execution layer client team to choose from: Geth, Nethermind, Besu, Aragon. You can just use them. You don't have to use the entire paradigm. And truthfully, life is a lot simpler from doing that way, right? But the downside is, okay, you may miss like a little bit of profit here and there. You may miss a lot of juicy block here and there. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Any questions? Help you.
Hey, thank you for the great presentation. Do you think SSF is a requirement for PBS?
So SSF is single stop finality, right? That's essentially basically guarantee that you will not have reorg, right? So I would say it's all trade-off at this point, right? I think SSF will not get in until for another 1 to 2 years, and I think we need Enshrined PBS sooner than that. So I don't think it's a requirement. So if you look at the latest ETH research post from Francisco, and then he basically essentially outlined that this is very much doable within some security assumptions. So right now, the current security assumption is 33% being malicious right now. Okay, so if 33% is malicious, then this thing will not work as well. But for SSF, you can go much lower, essentially. You can like assume like you can probably like 5% and stuff like that. So yeah, it all depends on the trade-off. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. What about the MEV burn? Because I hear about the MEV burn. Does it make this PBS not useful anymore? Yeah,
so I would say this is a prerequisite for MEV burn. So you need Enshrined PBS for MEV burn. So you can say, okay, I can implement this and MEV burn together, or I can do this first, then do MEV burn later. But this is a prerequisite because you need a bid to be part of the consensus. Otherwise, you cannot burn it. Yeah. Right here. Yes. Oh. Oh, this question right here, actually.
What is your opinion on flashbots and like Suave? Do you think that kind of effectively solves the centralization problem?
It's a little different, right? Because right now we're solving. So right now this is purely layer 1. So everything we do is on the layer 1, right? So Suave, there are more like application servers. So they're more like targeting like layer 2, even like application layer and stuff like that. So I would say that right now even we're seeing multiple competing solutions like with Swap. So everyone is coming up their own idea on how to sequence and how to do cross-domain and maybe extraction. So luckily we don't really have to deal with that as of now. I mean, when you run a validator, you just propose a block. It's very simple. But then who gets to the builder? That's probably up to Swap or someone else to decide. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Great.